Hello friends, and welcome back to A Bridge by Alpau. Once again coming to you from the Cozy Corner. All three of my watchers here might recognize that this is the beanbag I did some of my first videos on. It was at my parents' house, and then I wanted a beanbag and I knew that they wanted to get rid of theirs, so I decided to take it from them. I definitely need to decorate the walls behind me because it is pretty close in color, but that's a problem for another day. A week and a half ago to the day I think I'm posting this, I was in Los Angeles for Ryan Cahill's Of Blood and Fire World Tour with Pierce Brown, and there was a whole debacle that went on that I won't get into now, maybe later, but what you need to know from that story is that I was at the bookstore a couple hours early and there was nothing for me to do. So of course I'm perusing and I come across this beaut. Now for a while now, I have been wanting to read some science fiction short stories. First of all, because I actually really loved reading them while I was in school. They're so fun, they get you thinking, and they're so short. Like you can read a short story in like a half an hour. The other part of it being that science fiction really started as short stories, and so going back and reading some of them feels like I am doing the genre right. So I saw this, I was super excited about it. You'll notice that the title is Modern Classics of Science Fiction, but this was also published in the 90s. When I was reading the preface, it was like, you know, I wanted to do some of the ones from some decades that aren't often read from. So he was pulling from, I think like the late 50s on. And so for him, it was about 30 years. Like the first story it says was published 36 years before this collection was published. But now it's been another 35 years since this was published. So these are actually stories going back almost 70 years, ending I think in 1991 or 1990. The last story was written in 1989. It does, I believe, go in order. So I've already read the first two in this one. Those are The Country of the Kind by Damon Knight and Aristotle and the Gun by L. Sprague de Camp. Today I'm going to be reading The Other Celia by Theodore Sturgeon, and then Mother Hitten's Little Kittens by Cordwainer Smith. And I also, just because this is such a familiar name, wanted to read The Barrow by Ursula K. Le Guin, just because I've already read one of her stories before and I know that she's a big name in sci-fi, so I feel like that would be a good one to do for this very first. So starting off with Theodore Sturgeon, The Other Celia. I liked in the preface, he was just saying like, I picked these stories based on what I liked best. What I liked best, and also the stories that weren't being put into every single compilation. Goodbye dust jacket. Product placement. So far the story is just about a guy who cannot mind his own business and doesn't have to work because he's getting some sort of injury settlement, and so he just lurks and pokes around in his neighbors' rooms that they're renting. Okay, so there's someone whose room is completely empty, like no sign that anyone lives there at all, and he's super curious of like what's going on. So he waits for her to come home and then is like just waiting outside her door, but she's not making any sounds. So he's like, I know she's in there, but you can't hear her. And it says, for a long time, 6 minutes, 7, Slim hung there, open-throated to conceal the sound of his breath. And I really like the imagery of some man just standing outside some woman's door, breathing with his mouth open. It's funny. I like this. 1,000 things might happen. In each case, only one would. I feel like those are kind of words to live by. he's found something. All she has is like a bag that's got like a stack of papers in it, and while he was flipping through it, he realized that the stack of papers is hollow in the middle and there was something inside, and all it says is that it was tan, kind of pink, and felt like a smooth, untextured leather. There was a lot of it neatly folded so that it exactly fitted the hole in the ream of paper. And honestly, my first thought, it's skin. It's a skin suit. That's all I've got. Okay, next page. It was human skin. Okay, awesome. Oh, it has hair. Oh, weird. Okay, so the skin suit has her face, but he saw her leave the room and recognized her. I don't know. Okay, this man needs to go to jail. His room is over her room, so he's just cut a hole in her ceiling so he can spy on her. That's super creepy. This was published in 1957. Interesting, interesting. Hey Siri, what is the solar plexus? Huh. That's so weird. She like puts the head of the skin on and then lays down there for a long time, and then after like a half an hour the skin starts filling up as if it was some sort of liquid, until who she was before is now just an empty skin, and she like occupies the other. I don't know, it's super weird. So she switches this skin every night and seems rejuvenated when she does it. And one day he just decides to steal it, just takes it from her. Oh, that was so weird. Okay, let's recap. He's super curious. He likes to look at his neighbor's rooms. One day, he realizes that there's this woman that's moved in and he knows nothing about her, so he goes snooping and she has nothing. After a few days, discovers the skin, and so then he cuts a hole in her ceiling and like watches her, and she'll like attach it, and then it will like fill up the other skin, and then she'll wash and fold the other one, and then like go about and do this every day. And one day he's just curious, he steals her second skin from her room, and she gets back that day and she like looks around for it, and she's like really tired looking, looks around for it, realizes she doesn't have it, and just like gives up and lays on the floor like she usually would to like do the transformation, and is like looking really, really rough. But then instead, because she has no skin to fill, she just explodes into light, and like he gets some sort of after image from how bright this light is. And then it says like, and the next day in the paper they're talking about how like there's been these really weird like super heated moments where people were burned up, but not like the furniture or their skin, and like no one knows why, and these people tend to like not have any family or relatives, so there's no one to talk to about it. Really weird, super weird. I mean, I think that this is just a story about like curiosity of the unknown. It even says at some point that he is less afraid of her after he finds out about the skin changing than he was at the beginning when he knew nothing about her. But then his curiosity goes too far. And I like that. Where like, a little bit of curiosity is good, and it helps you like understand and relate to others and the world around you more, but too much curiosity can go too far and it can harm yourself and others. I mean, really, it's just a story about like a super, super nosy neighbor, and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. The other Celia, that's interesting. So like every other day she's wearing like this new skin. So weird. It suggested that she's some sort of species that grew with Homo sapiens and realized that the best way to survive was to just blend in with humans, and so it kind of like took on that shape, but it was something other. And later that, like she doesn't call for a doctor even though she knows that she's dying, and he realizes that, yeah, I guess it's better for one person to die than for them to call for help and ruin the secret for everyone else. Really weird. Yeah, I would say coming away from this, the moral of the story is just curiosity. So that was The Other Celia by Theodore Sturgeon. Next story I wanted to read And I picked this one literally just because of the name. It's by Cordwainer Smith and it's called Mother Hitten's Little Kittens, but it's spelled really weird. I don't know if you're gonna be able to read this. Here it is. Like little and kittens are spelled little kittens. Oh, Cordwainer Smith is a pseudonym. Ooh, author of the definitive text on the art of psychological warfare. This is gonna be good. I'm excited. Okay, so right off the bat, this is Earth, but like many, many years from now. And there is a woman who is the protector of Earth. So I would assume that the little kittens are gonna be what the story calls Norstrilians, and we will see whether or not that they are humans. Maybe it's not Earth. It's just called, the place that she's in is called Old North Australia. So, no, but it says old. I was gonna say like maybe they're naming it after an old place like New Jersey, but that would be New North Australia, not old. So, okay. Okay, so our antagonist is the descendant of people left on a planet to die because their planet wasn't like important enough to go to or wasn't close enough to anything else to stop on. And so his biology has adapted, their ecology shifted, and they became predators upon man, adapted by time and genetics to their deadly tasks. Okay. Okay, this is probably a whole page just went by, and I realized that his name is not Benjamin, it's Benjacomin. And my brain was just filling in what I knew. I'm gonna take a break while reading this one really quick to talk about the last one and just kind of like science fiction short stories in general, because I love the way that they don't give you all the answers. Like in the last one, you don't really know why she has to change skin every night, and you don't know exactly what or who she is still at the end of the story, and no solutions are offered even in the last paragraph where it's like the newspapers are talking about it. Science fiction short stories just leave so much to the imagination, and I love it so much. It's so good. And I felt like The Other Celia was like the perfect embodiment of that like you actually like you finish the story and you still don't know what happened or what was going on at all. Okay, sorry, back to Mother Hitten's Little Kittens. Oh, Australians are the rich, brave, tough people from old Earth. Oh, Australians became the tyrants of humanity. So he's like 200 years old, and he was raised on a planet by the Guild of Thieves. And so he is trying to rob the people of Old North Australia because they seem to have something that makes him incredibly wealthy. But there's this line that says, he was well into his third lifetime, and the lifetimes had been purchased honestly by his people. Good thieves, all of them, paying out hard stolen money to obtain the medicine to let their greatest thief remain living. Oh, okay, he's kidnapping a child. Oh, okay, so he's trying to figure out what sort of defense they've got that keeps other people from stealing their wealth. He's asking about the outer defense, and I imagine it's gonna be Mother Hitten and her little kittens. Okay, so he's injected him with some sort of truth drug, but these Norstrilians have already been conditioned, like by the time that they're kids, to not tell people what the defenses are. But he's threatening this kid, and so since the kid can't speak, he's writing it out in the sand, and that's why it's spelled so weird. Oh, he killed the kid. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what seems to make them live so long is called Santa Clara, and the kid was full of it and was supposed to live 1,000 years, but he died. Yeah, they've got some sort of drug that allows them to live, and the Norstrilians use it a lot, but they don't send it out very much. The beanbag has settled a lot, so I moved the camera down a bit. Oh, okay, so it's not spelled wrong, because he goes to the library and tries to look up kittens spelled like that, and just looking it up like that set off an alert. I get why they say he is the master of psychological warfare. When they travel between planets, there's a moment where like they get sedated because there's going to be a pain, and during that moment someone suggests another planet to him so that he'll go and travel there, like plants it subconsciously. And then it's saying it was no wonder that he had found lavender. His pillow had told him lavender stories 15 times during his sleep in the past week. So I've got like a solid 10 minutes of footage where my camera battery had died, but I didn't realize, but it was still recording the audio. So I'll just be playing anything interesting that I said and probably just put some pretty pictures up on the screen while you hear those. The kittens are minks. They are minks that have been bred to be psycho. Very fun. This is so weird. She's bred them to be like super vicious, but they're so vicious they have to stay sedated and strapped down all the time when they're awake. And yet this is supposed to be like the defense of old North Australia that keeps them so rich. Oh, they're doing some sort of like psychotransference where like all of the rage of these little minks is collected, multiplied, and then I think sent to the people who are trying to infiltrate old North Australia. So they go crazy and they kind of themselves. Oh, he's getting his whole planet until the debt that they will literally never repay, and it makes me kind of sad for them. I actually don't know who's supposed to be the protagonist and antagonist of the story. They both kind of feel evil in their own ways, and you understand their motivations, but don't really agree with what they're doing anyway. So I'm sad. I'm sad for both of them. Yeah, they're sending the crazy, psychotic, murderous, vicious, like thoughts concentrated to this guy, and that's their system. Dang, they just blasted his consciousness with all this crazy, and he died after a few minutes. Even just going through like the outside of this crazy beam that they've got shook up the police a lot. Dang. Oh, this planet is gonna be in debt forever and ever and ever. Okay, that story definitely wasn't what I was expecting. In the end, he gets blasted by this crazy wave and dies, and then his planet is, it says, in debt for 400 million man mega years. And he says, we'll all be dead, strewn or no strewn. Strewn is the name of the drug that keeps him alive. Before they finish paying that, he went off to tell his friends the odd news. The machine not getting its card back made another one. So I guess they're in debt like 2 times over. Oh, geez. That was weird. So I'm glad that I read the little thing about him being author of the definitive text still taught from today in 1991 on the art of psychological warfare, because it makes a lot more sense. I mean, this is like literal psychological warfare and like, you know, the way that we think about it, where it's like this subliminal messaging and all that stuff. I mean, weird, but I understand why it stood out to the guy who was compiling this. I don't know what else to say about it. The minks really give me the ick. There's something about like, I don't know, just like the way that he was describing them that was just like, ooh, like this makes me really uncomfortable. And maybe in a way that it's supposed to, but I also feel like maybe a little bit more than it's supposed to, just because it did not agree with me. I mean, they're psychotic. It says that they're bred when they're only half awake, otherwise they would like kill each other. The mothers give birth while they're drugged out and like completely unconscious and stuff like that. So yeah, the minks were weird. I know this is science fiction and obviously none of it is real, but this one I find even less believable because I cannot imagine that one beam of crazy is going to be enough to protect this entire continent on Earth that makes this drug that keeps people alive and is like worth everything. The story implies that it works so well because it's so crazy and no one's expecting it, but I still just feel like there's so many ways to get around it. Mother Hitton does kind of know really early on that someone is coming for them, and so maybe that's like the unexplained piece that makes that plan really infallible, but I'm just like, I'm especially not buying it. Despite having already suspended my belief as much as I can, it's still kind of weird. Interesting name. Mother Hitton's Little Kittens. I like that the misspelling of little and kittens is the flag that like tells them that someone's gonna come. I think that's really interesting and kind of smart. But I also feel bad for the people who do actually just misspell it if they're looking something up. Okay, on to the next. Last short story I'm going to be reading is The Barrow by Ursula K. Le Guin. I don't know what else to say about this. I did read The Left Hand of Darkness. I thought it was weird, but I understand it more now knowing the context of it all. Still not like my favorite book, but I get it. Okay, anyway. It's definitely giving a Norse aesthetic and like Scandinavians post-Christendom. And there's like a priest and he's telling the people that they're doing it all wrong. Odin mentioned. Odne. This is definitely giving fantasy more than sci-fi so far. They're talking about some mountain folk who are offering sacrifices to the barrow, and the barrow that no one knows what's in it. How long is this one? Oh, it's not long at all. Dang. He's got a wife who is pregnant and has been laboring for 2 days straight. Oh, and what's going on with that? Like, the women are being really weird about it, so there's gonna be something else going on with this. And they're, oh my gosh, and this priest that's visiting them is like, why haven't you taken Christianity to the mountain folk? And they're like, what are you talking about? Why would we do that? And he's like, oh. As someone who has studied Viking history just for kicks and giggles, I'm really, really enjoying the echoes of the past of what actually happened when Christianity was brought to like Sweden and stuff like that. It's fun. Oh, okay. The priest gets sacrificed on the altar that's supposed to be the mountain folks. Okay, that one was kind of interesting. So it definitely pulls a lot from like the Viking mythology. I really like that it calls to the fact that like when Christianity was adopted in Scandinavia, it wasn't really. So the whole thing was that like to the Scandinavians, you know, they had multiple gods already. And so when someone came by and was like, hey, you should worship this guy named Jesus Christ, they're like, yeah, sure, we can add him to our pantheon. And they didn't really like think anything of it. And that's kind of like what this story focuses on. They're like, we're Christians. We're definitely Christians. You know, we believe in Christianity. There's this visiting priest. He's like, yeah, Christians, Christianity, Christ, we love it all. And they're like, yeah, we love it. But then when the count's wife is laboring and it's like not going well for her, he takes the priest out and sacrifices it on this pagan altar. And then the wife, you know, has her kid and it's a healthy boy. And then the count and now his son become like the big patrons of Christianity in this land that they're in, which is just ironic because like what he did was not like he sacrificed someone to not Christ, you know? It's kind of interesting. I like that. Definitely not sci-fi the way that I think of it, but I also understand that like the genres of sci-fi and fantasy have really been intermingled a lot. I liked it. It was weird, but I liked it. I liked the twist of like they're doing all of this in the name of something, but what they're actually doing is something else. And I think that's interesting. So there we go. I'm now like 5 short stories down on this one. It was funny when I was reading through it, the preface, and it was like, so many stories got cut and this is still just such a behemoth of a compilation. And I'm like looking at it. I'm like, that's a normal size book. This is not a behemoth. But then I went and I like actually looked at how many pages there are. It's like 672. So it is actually a solid book. It's just the pages are kind of thin. It's compact. I liked them. I guess I'll do like a little short story review here. I would give The Other Celia, like an 8 out of 10. It was weird, it was a little bit disturbing, and it left a lot of unanswered questions, and that's kind of like what I like in my sci-fi short stories. I would give Mother Hitten's Little Kittens like a solid 6. It was just kind of weird, and once again, I understand the irony of the statement. It felt like it had a lot of holes in it, like it wasn't very believable. Something about it just felt a little bit off, but I mean, you know, weaponizing animalistic rage, that's a fun concept. And then The Barrow, I would probably give See, I feel like 8 is a little too high and 7 is a little too low, but 7.5 also doesn't feel right. I'm gonna give it a 7.75. That's probably too granular. And I've mentioned this before in other videos, like I do like to do an enjoyment and like a craftsmanship for all of these. I'm gonna say enjoyment for the other Celia it was a 10 out of 10. I really enjoyed that short story. Craftsmanship, I'm gonna stick with the 8 out of 10. Enjoyment of Mother Hittens is gonna be even lower. It's gonna be like a 4 or 5. In craftsmanship, I mean, I get why it's compelling, probably around like a 7 for craftsmanship. And then the Barrow enjoyment, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10, reserving that last point just because I was like a little bit confused. Like the story was so short, I was kind of like, what was the point? But like I said, it pulled a lot from Scandinavian mythology, which I really enjoy, so it's a 9. And then craftsmanship is gonna be like an 8 or a 9 as well. I think it was interesting. It definitely told a story, but I'm still a little bit confused as to what the moral of it was. So it's high, but it can't be perfect because I'm just, yeah, I don't really know what happened, but yeah, I liked that. Well, that's your latest episode of Abridged by Alpal. I will definitely be reading more science fiction short stories soon. It's just so fun to go back into like the beginnings of the genre and see what they were all about. And it's really weird stuff, I'm not gonna lie to you, but definitely compelling. And it's making me think about a lot of the short stories I read when I was like in middle school. I think is when I did the majority of my short stories, in like freshman year of high school as well. Maybe I'll go back and reread some of those as well. I know that there's one with a character named Margot that like really sticks out in my head, and like she was unable to see the sun the one time it was going to come out in her lifetime because she like got stuck in school or something like that. I can't really remember. Devastating one. I think it's time that I like reread The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas in its entirety. It's been several years since I read that one, and I just love that story so much. Like it really makes you think. Oh, there's one called The Veldt, which is about some entitled children in their playroom. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye. All 3 of my watchers might recognize this beanbag chair as might recognize this beanbag. Oh my gosh, okay, starting over. For some reason, my microphone and my headphones stopped working at work once, and so I plugged in this little microphone for it, but it was actually way too good, and it was still picking up the sound of my coworker's voice so well that like he just turned his mic off, and we were both just using my mic. It's funny. Probably just put oh my gosh. Author of the definitive text on the art of cycle. Oh my gosh. You can tell it's getting late because my rosacea cream is like wearing off and all of my blush is coming back.